Welcome to Beneath the Surface, the podcast that proudly lives local, with host, realtor, and investor Andy Algreen. And now, time for the show.
What's up, everybody? My name's Andy Algreen. I'm a realtor and investor here in Monroe, Iowa, and Central Iowa. And welcome back to another episode of the Beneath the Surface podcast, where I invite local business owners to come in and just have a conversation so we can get to know people in the Monroe, Iowa community. So on today's episode, we got Dean Van Ryswyk with Van Ryswyk Plumbing and Heating. So appreciate you being on, Dean.
Anytime.
I just want to start it off quick with a stat that I heard a couple days ago. It said 20% of businesses fail within the first 2 years, 45% fail within the first 5, and 65% fail during the first 10. And I know you guys have been around for a while, so I guess my first couple questions is how long have you been around in Monroe, and what do you think the key is to that success?
My dad started it. He bought a little business in town from a guy 1950, I think 58, 59, in that area. I'm not positive. We don't have a real date of when it is, so that gives you how long we've been around here, and I've been with him ever since I could start to work.
Yep.
On that deal. So we've been around a long time. The facts you put out were probably pretty close at what happens. That first 2 or 3 years is not. When my brother and I bought it from my dad, when you have to pay the bills, you have to work. If you don't work it, you don't have a lot of family life. You don't have a lot of home life. You got to work at that first 5 years to get things going. And you got to really pay attention to what the outgoes are, what's your overhead. You got to really watch that tremendously. And I always laughed at my dad because he always gave me a hard time, and I always got a big kick out of it because he'd go to sales and he would worry more about his $2 wrenches, buying $2 wrenches, than he was buying a $75,000 machine. He just nitpicked that little small stuff. Well, now I know that little bitty stuff gets you faster than that $75,000 machine will.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where everybody, they think they can just go out and do things. Well, you got to really watch that overhead.
Yeah.
Majorly.
It's like the don't trip over dollars to save dimes.
Yep.
Type saying.
Yep.
So your dad bought it from someone?
Yeah, I want to say it was a noon, but I'm not positive.
Okay.
And I can't really get an answer from him right now. But he never really said who for sure. But I do know when he started, him and his brother bought it originally.
Yep.
And they used to have a little building over here by the fishing hole before the Legion added that addition onto him. There was a building in between there, and that's where he said he started out. And then it ended up being Ralph's.
Pfeiffer?
Nope. Ralph Stewart's insurance office.
Oh, okay.
Which would be Slim's stepdad, Slim Vanderwall's stepdad.
Okay.
Randy Vanderwall be his stepdad.
Okay. And then so you and your brother bought it from your dad?
In 2000.
In 2000?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Year of Y2K.
Yep.
So.
Yep. So I guess I'll kind of just go into, I had a question set up for why plumbing and heating? Why not electrical work, construction work, stuff like that? And I, with one of my guesses is just with being a realtor, I walk a decent amount of properties and being an investor as well. Sometimes when you walk into a property and you, and there's a bad smell coming from it, sometimes that means money. Mm-hmm. If I had to guess, that might be one of the reasons, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that.
One of the reasons I'm still in it, that's all I've ever done. So I don't know. I have never really worked for anybody else but my dad. So I don't know why, but I do enjoy the work. I do enjoy the customers 90% of the time. There's always a 10% that doesn't help you out as much as you would like.
Yep.
But that I can't give you a really answer why it was. It's just because that's all I've done.
Yep.
Like I said, I've never worked for anybody else but Dad or me.
Yep.
So.
Gotcha. So, did you start working? You start working like in elementary?
Oh yeah. Oh, probably. I would say in that 12-year-old, 10 to 12-year-old age, I suppose I started, and I guess I'll be 63 in July.
Yeah, a little bit of time.
Yep, a little bit. Yep, has been.
Yep. And so you have, as far as your family life and stuff, you have 2 boys.
Yes, I do.
Are either of them kind of thinking about taking over the business type deal or anything like that?
There's been some talk. Not a lot of sure of how much talk. The one thing I do know, we were having a birthday party for me at Goldie's one day. That's been probably 20, 15, 18 years ago. And we used to clean sewers out then. And then I got a call. The guy had sewer coming up in his basement. And I really couldn't get anybody else to go. So I had to leave my own birthday party to go to work. And I could see him kind of click. I think, well, maybe I don't want it, but I don't know yet. We're still working through that situation.
Yep.
So
for sure.
I'd like to, but I also don't blame him.
Yeah.
It's on that deal.
Mm-hmm. You kind of mentioned it earlier and a little bit there, but just that work-life balance type. Kind of want to dig into that a little bit more. Just for myself, kind of getting more involved with the Monroe community. I'm on city council now, and I work, I'm on the board at the Gathering Place, and then obviously I have my realtor business, and then my Des Moines short-term rental business. So, obviously not trying to say, hey, look at me, I'm doing all these things, but it's like there's still that piece of it where it's like you got to figure out how to manage your time and do that. So I guess, I don't know, do you have any words of advice, wisdom on that, and kind of what you've learned over the years?
Well, right now my grandkids rule the roost. If they call me or if they say we got this going on, I have over the last, Peyton will be 14 or 15. Boys have been married about 10. So I'd say the last 7 or 8 years, my definition of emergency service work has changed. When I was first bought it, because they weren't very old when I bought the business from my dad. And I made it to probably 95% of their events, but there's a lot of times I wasn't around after that, because I had to do the service work, emergency service work, which I thought was probably more important. Now it's not as important as it used to be. But you do have a lot of, you gotta really pay attention to what you're going to do, because you gotta be at home. Yep. That's a given. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It's a tough, Andy, it's not an easy thing to do and to figure out. The other thing that for me is my wife, Jan, is the secretary at the business. So my work is 24/7. 7 days a week, even though I have a day off, or if I'm doing something, she'll bring something home and we'll have to work on that. It hasn't been the easiest thing to do, but you got to really you got to set your priorities early. Okay.
Yep.
On that deal. It's not an easy thing.
Yep. For sure.
No matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, running your own business, it's definitely that it's work-life balancing.
Yep.
Like it's all the time.
Yep.
24/7, like you said. But
you can't let the money get you. You have to make ends meet, but you can't let the money end dictate what you're going to do. You always got to make your budgets, your whatever you got. You always got to make all that, but there's a certain limit to that after a while.
Yep.
So.
Yep. When did Jan start being the secretary?
She was secretary to school when it burnt. And then I think my mom was the secretary for my dad. And I would say she started, probably 20 years ago.
Okay.
She wasn't, when we bought it in 2000, she wasn't the secretary then. Mom was still, but she might have been part-time then a little bit. Mom would take it a day off to do stuff like that. But I'd say probably 20 years ago, she went full-time.
Okay.
So.
Yep. So as far as the business, how many employees you guys have, or what does that situation kind of look like?
Right now we have 4. Well, my brother and I, Jeff Coder, Darren Clausen, work full time, and Jan, and then we have Bill Connors part time. He works in the office when Jan's gone, putting stuff away, trying to keep things straightened out. I got a couple part-time truck drivers to haul, because we haul a little rock and dirt. Right now we have a high school student on the school to work career program they have. He comes for about an hour and a half every day. And then 2 high school kids from Prairie City work when school's out. They'll work full-time for us.
Okay.
And then at college, when he's done, he'll come and work for us full-time.
Gotcha.
Or through the summer.
Yep.
when he can.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we got.
Gotcha. So about five full-time,
Mm-hmm.
and then part-time here and there.
4 or 5 part-timers.
Yep. Another thing I was going to ask is, so for me, as far as being a realtor in Monroe, there's obviously small town, 2,000 people. Mm-hmm. There's not a whole lot of volume as far as activity and houses selling. And in Monroe, like last year, there was 47 total sales. That includes like land listings and commercial and condo townhome. So everything, 47. So I work in central Iowa. So I'll go over to Earlham, and then up to Ankeny, down to Winterset, and then essentially anywhere east, just because obviously live in Monroe. What percentage would you say of your business stays in Monroe versus goes outside of?
We travel probably no more than 40-mile radius around Monroe. Percentage-wise, I would say 50 to 60% of my business is around within I would call it PCM school district, which would be Prairie City, in that area. I'd say probably 60% of the business, and the rest of it is, my oldest boy, Keaton, works in Altoona, so I get a decent amount of work out of Altoona, and then people from here have moved someplace else, and they'll call me up, say, will you come this far to work to do what I do? So I get that. We used to travel a lot more, but not traveling in a bigger area, but we used to, I used to do a lot of plumbing and heating for some other builders that aren't around anymore.
Gotcha. New home builders?
New home builders, yeah. McIlvain Lumber out of Prairie City used to be a company in town. Marv Neely used to build houses. W.P. Barber, the lumberyard here in town, used to build houses. But when Dad was starting, that was going on, there wasn't a lot of plumbers, HVAC guys around, so he got it. We'd probably do, I'd say in the neighborhood of 50 to 60 a year, new houses.
Okay.
But they would be square houses. They're not the houses that you have now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're box house, 1970s to 80s houses.
Yeah.
So, but back to your question, I'd say 60% probably here in the, I'd call it the PCM school district.
Okay. Yeah. Random question that popped up in my head. So when you're back in the day, so we bought a 70s, our house was built in 74, and the HVAC system is put in the middle of the basement. Do you know why?
Why?
That is?
That was the easiest way. That was the even distribution of the air. Okay. It's harder to push. It's harder if you put it on one end of the house, it's harder to get it to the other end for, I call it comfortability. You want to be able to, and that's just the way they did it. That's the way it was all set up. It's easier to push air halfway both ways than it is on one end and blow it to the other end. You have to have everything sized right to do that.
Got it.
And back then calculations weren't, oh yeah, that looks good. Sometimes it was, that looks good, let's do that. And that made it work.
Yeah.
That's how I grew up. I never went to a trade school. I've never been to a trade school one. I just call it College of Hard Knocks to learn all that stuff. But that's the reason it's in the center. It's easier to push it both ways.
Got it. Makes sense.
Now, 90% of the time now they put them on one end.
Yeah.
The condos that I got down here, they're on one end.
Okay. I was going to say, just because like for finishing basement,
it's not easy.
it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Andy, you're right on that.
But
you deal with it.
yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Like when they're, I'm going to keep going on
Yeah,
this,
go ahead.
but
Go ahead.
so when they're on that side of, like if they're on one side of the house, like is the vent just smaller and then it gets bigger?
No,
type
you
deal?
start out
Or how
bigger.
does that work?
You start out bigger and you get smaller because you got to pressurize it.
Got it.
Okay, so if it's great big on one end and you run that all the way to the other end, you don't get any air out of it.
Okay. Yep.
You got to pressurize the air and shrink it down so it pushes. And what it does is it evens out to the heat runs you put in. The rule of thumb is you count the heat runs you have, and then so if you have, say, for ease of math, if you got 10 heat runs, you add, you take it times 2 and then add 2, so it would be 22 inches wide. And then when your house was built, if they had 14-inch wide, that's all they had.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't. There's some scientifics that's getting different now than it was back then.
Yeah.
Things work different, and I've had to learn that through trial and error for myself, basically. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're originally from Monroe?
Yep.
Is Jan from Monroe?
No, she's from Prairie City.
Okay. Did you guys meet in high school?
No, out of school. She was graduated. I was too. She's 4 years younger than I am.
Okay.
So yeah, I met her here in town. They used to Munson Sinclair used to be over here where across from the bank. That's where everybody at night, when I was in high school, you scooped the loop, which is just drive around the square.
Yep.
And everybody sat in Munson's gas station if they were done driving around. And we were just sitting there one night and things just progressed from there.
Yep.
So it worked out.
Gotcha.
So far it's been okay.
Yeah, not too bad.
It's done good. We've done good.
Yeah.
We've done fine.
Yep. That's good. Now you got a handful of grandkids too.
Yep. There's 8 of them.
Yep.
Yep. It's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It is.
So to kind of wrap things up here, do you have any pieces of advice for anyone, whether it's about family, business, entrepreneurship, or anything like that you can think
Pieces
of?
of advice.
And while you're thinking, if you want to think, you can. How can people reach Van Ryswyk Plumbing?
We have the office number is 641-259-2054. We have a website that we're upgrading at the moment, and I'm going to put a plug in for VRPH right now. We have now provide financing. I have connected to somebody that we can get the money through financing. which we've never done.
Okay.
And so that a piece of advice, I would say, put your nose to the grindstone, work, but have fun. If you don't like the work you're doing, find something else. My dad always said, and this was I wouldn't say I live by it, but I think about it all the time. He says, I was looking for a job when I found this one. So he says, you know, we all want to make something out of something, but sometimes it doesn't work.
Yep.
But you just try your best. Like I talked earlier, is time. Timing is a whole deal of how you work your time out and how you spend your free time and where you're going to spend it at.
Yep.
So
awesome. Yeah.
That's about all that would be mine. I guess I'm not a philosopher, so I don't stick around.
No,
I don't have a certain thing I live for.
Yep.
But
no, that's good.
Well,
I heard a quote too the other day. It kind of goes along with it, but it's don't expect results from the work that you didn't do.
Yep.
Pretty simple.
You're never gonna know what happened unless you try it.
Mm-hmm.
And Andy, I appreciate people like you that are coming new to town, because I look at the ones at church. I'm on the church board there at the Baptist church, or I was. I'm off now, but I always enjoy having people like you that didn't grow up in this town coming and doing that, volunteering. You have different ideas than people that live here. And if you come to me with an idea, and I'm willing to try it, because we got to keep changing things. If it stays the same, you're going backwards.
Yep.
And I appreciate the newer guys, the younger guys, and the ones that didn't grow up here getting involved, because that gives different ideas. They see things different. You guys see things different than I grew up here, so I see things different than you do. And we need to change a little bit here and there. If we don't change, we're going backwards.
Yep.
So
yeah, that's good. Well, I grew up in Earlham, so west of Des Moines, so a smaller town, but similar, I guess, vibes to Monroe.
Yeah.
But still different town. So
we all get caught up in a tradition. Everybody says we got to have a tradition. This is the tradition. That's not the way we did it before. Well, sometimes we got to change.
Yep.
We need the different ideas to make things different. I do appreciate you guys doing that.
Yep, I appreciate
Church is the same way too. The new members come and I try and get them involved in different things, because it gives them different ideas. I always ask, what do you guys think about this? Because everybody else this is what we used to do. This is how we do it. So
yeah,
I enjoy that.
Yep, that's good. But yeah, no, I appreciate you hopping on and having a conversation.
Anytime. I'd come up and talk to you again. I got a lot of other things I could talk about, whether right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yep.
So
yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Good deal. Thanks.
Good.
Thank you for joining us Beneath the Surface. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for future episodes.